Well. Good morning. Sort of. Where are we? We got about 10 minutes till we actually go live. So we have to get a couple things done here. You take a look at that to get where I belong. And what do we got? Going live here. There we are. Now live on your channel. This is the reality that I needed to get to. So we go to there. And we drag all of that up here. Get it out of the way. Then we grab this particular tab and bring it back down where we can see it. Go like that. And then we do that. Okay. Now let's see what we got going on. I'll cut that one a little tighter than normal, but what the heck. Whoop. I'll cut that one a little. Kill that. And okay, there we go. And we are now live. We are now active. We can now see what the heck we're doing. Maybe. Okay, what do we got for unread messages? I was just opening the window there. So, oh yeah, I guess they won't be coming in for a couple of minutes. Yeah, I'm looking at this going, there's nobody in the room, but of course, we're a little ahead of time. Don't require that. Still don't require it. Okay. The heck was that? Interesting. Okay, just getting things sorted around. Been a little scattered the last little while, but you get used to it after a bit. Don't breathe coffee. Apparently, breathing coffee is actually bad for your health. Okay. Oh, yes, he wanted the link. I don't even know. I don't even know how to get it to him. Whoa. That is not what I need. Just send on land like this way. Where are we? Where are we? To make sure I do that right, YouTube channel is what is. Just trying to pass the link on that I really don't have too terribly much access to. Not for the phone, anyway. Okay, did not have to go there. Okay. Well, that didn't work worth a hoot. So we go back to that and take a look. There we go. Just sending a person asked me for the link to my YouTube channel via phone. I'm not set up for the internet on the phone, so I got to do it this way. Let's see, regarding my YouTube channel. Look up our Keith Andrews. Yep. There we go. I am live now. Okay, that took care of that. Nothing like trying to get things organized. I do want to do this though. That's live streaming there. We take that, we copy that. And where the heck is it? Skype is right there. So we send them the link. This is one of those, this is just kind of a putter around until we actually go live, but it didn't feel like going anywhere. Because I've already got my coffee, so I'm good. And there we are. That takes all of that now. Where, pray tell? That one. Okay, now we can see where we're standing. And what time are we? Got 4 minutes and we actually go live. So we'll see what happens. Didn't get a lot of warning today because I only decided this morning exactly where I was going to go. Yeah, so now it just boils down to an issue of keeping things mobile. While I'm doing that, I've got other things on the go here as well. Anyway, where are we here? Yeah, I seem to be a little distracted. That's because nobody's in here right now, and I'm actually getting things organized anyway. Move that out of the way. Where's the other thing? I don't really require that here, so we'll just get that out of the way where I don't have to deal with it. But things are interesting to say the least. Now, I do get some interesting phone calls. I got a call from the past just today of somebody looking into asking me if I was still connected to a line of life that I completely gave up decades back. It is interesting how the past will come back to haunt you on occasion. In this case, it wasn't a big problem at all. As a matter of fact, we had kind of a giggle out of the thing, I think. As to why, pray tell, the number was given. Because, the reality is I run pretty much a straight and narrow. Primarily, I think, because I really don't have a liking for the idea of the vertical bar scene. So what are we looking at here? Anyway, should get on with things, shouldn't we? Let's see. We have a couple of things here. Animals. Are they in here? Where is the giant bird that I've got? I had to actually look this one up. Nope, doesn't have that one. These are all figures that, oh, you can't actually see me. Yeah, I'm just looking in the figures that I actually paint. I was looking for one in particular, but apparently it's not where I thought it was, so it's got to be one of these bins. And no, I realize you can't see it. So since I can't find it, anyway, that's beside the point. I actually did a video yesterday. My journey yesterday. I turned around, like I took a look at. Okay, and I simply went about talking about the way that my novels, the Yldrbac Chronicles, actually came about, which really got me thinking about this whole idea of how the imagination can literally affect the world, can affect your reality, can affect the way your life is unfolding. So I figured, what the heck? I got looking at it, my imagination has driven most of my life. As a matter of fact, quite frankly, yours does as well. And it looks like we're starting to get people into the chat room, at least tuning in. Apparently, I don't speak English well, at least not today. Now, the reality of it is, I return to this world. It's the same. I'm the same person that does the journey. So yes, I return to this world at this point in time to remind everybody in existence that we can, working together, make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, the intriguing part about it is when I decided to do the topic and do the discussion on how your imagination can actually influence things. Okay. Thinking about it, because I was in the middle of doing the post for yesterday, of doing my journal yesterday. Okay, or doing the vlog, call it what you will. I have decided, I've been bouncing back and forth, so the last couple of weeks have been a little sketchy, right? It was suggested I cut my videos down to 10 minutes, which is a great idea, but I also find a lot of people are still telling me that they listen to the vlogs in the on their way to work sort of thing, which is fantastic. But that brought to my attention the fact that I'm going to have to get more on the ball with doing them first thing in the morning. Okay. But I will be doing more shorter videos on a variety of different topics, in addition to what I'm actually dealing with. Good morning, Lawrence. How are you? Glad you could join us. I got thinking about it, and we talk about how to change reality. Now, people keep talking about unifying the world, and yet the people in charge and the general population are finding absolutely bizarre creative ways of totally isolating themselves and each other. Now, when I talk about modifying reality, all things start in the upper echelon. They all start up here. Okay, then they get into your mind, which is where the imagination starts to go into gear, where you start trying to figure out how to take your life from where it is, from where you're not content with, to make it into something else. Well, it requires a creative component. It requires that imagination to make that happen, to visualize a different life. Like, if we go back to when I was in my early 20s, in the early 80s, early to mid 80s, I don't know. When I was back at that point, I never would have imagined myself sitting in front of a camera and talking to people I've never met. It just wouldn't have happened because I barely talked to the people that were around me. I'd go into a bar. I would pick a spot really close to the cashier, right, where, to the cashier, where the bartender, where the waitresses went, right, and I would talk to them. I would not talk to the people at the table next to me even. Okay, so I was not in the position. Boy, did that come out poorly. I was not in a position to even consider the idea of sitting and doing a video. I mean, let's face it, at that time, videos were a whole lot more complicated to get to. But I had never considered it. Now, I have become comfortable with the idea of doing the journey. I did look at cutting the videos back, and you saw a couple of days there. If you've been following my channel, you've seen a couple of days where I've done a number of short videos all back to back. To me, that is not really effective. First and foremost, I have to cut my thought off midline, okay, and create a barrier instead of just jumping between, which is what I normally do. Okay. That'd be the first problem. The second one is that it takes me about an extra hour to get them posted. And with my time schedule the way it is, that's a problem. So what I'm doing, I didn't actually do the journey this morning. Okay, I barely had time when I got things organized to actually come online and get things set up before I even went live. So I will be doing the journey later today at some point. Don't know when. I'll figure that out at that point. But when we're talking about the imagination, it starts up here, it goes to your mind. That's when you start looking at the world and going, either you're really content with the way your life is, or you're not. Okay, you're not, and if you're not content, that's where the imagination comes in. Now, imagination can be an absolutely phenomenal bonus. In the case of Lemurians, some 40,000 years ago, bearing in mind that we had the capacity of physical manifestation. Okay, in other words, we thought about it, we could create it simply by thought. But it was our imagination that actually cost us our entire civilization. Because the whole thing was built on physical manifestation and mental cohesion. Well, somebody somewhere along the line, and we don't know if it was male, female, child, all of a sudden everybody had the same thought because we were all connected. And the idea was, what would happen if we all of a sudden shut our mind and shut our hearts off, our physical hearts, at the same time? Now, nobody thought it through. This is clear because we did exactly what was suggested. And we turned around and, we went, okay, what would happen? Everybody imagined their heart shutting off. Now, that killed half the population, some 5 billion people. Okay. And yes, I did say that was only half. But that one imaginary thought, what would happen? What if? Now, Marvel Comics does this regularly. Quite honestly, Lawrence, the answer to your question, yes, the Lemurians, when they did them about 10,000 years earlier than that event. Okay, the Lemurians about 40,000 years ago built themselves, created the starships, and then they emigrated from Earth to Mobius. Okay, when they got into Mobius, in order to work with the local area, they voluntarily separated themselves as a group from Earth. Then, 10,000 years after they're set up, they're still doing things the same way in Mobius. And they still have that capacity for physical manifestation. But about 10,000 years earlier, they cut themselves off from us. And what ended up happening, of course, 30,000 years ago, did that wrong. 40,000 years ago, the accident happened. So about 50,000 years ago, the Lemurians emigrated to Mobius, isolated themselves from us, so they did not go through the same issue. But our imagination shut the civilization down and wiped out all record of it. Of course, understand it was all done by mental cohesion. In today's world, the imagination is still an incredibly powerful source. Okay, it's a very powerful tool because what you look at, you take a look at your world, at the world you live in, and go, are you content? If the answer is yes, then you're clearly happier than most people I've ever run into. But if there's even one thing you're not content with, you start with the imagination. I wonder what it would be like. Okay, I used to sit in my office here with everything just absolutely cluttered. Okay, and I still have that little problem in certain ways. Okay, now here's the thing. When you take a look at the way your life is going, okay, when you take a look at how your life is, you take a look at it and go, am I happy? If the answer is yes, then absolutely stay with it. If you're not happy about anything, start modifying it. Okay, now I came across a tool years ago that I've been using ever since. What is today? Today is the 26th, is it not? No, today's the 25th. Okay, so I still work with this whole idea of a list. Okay, in pretty much, and it's not just for work. But here's the reality of it. Back, like I said, if you listen to my vlog yesterday, if you listen to the journey, I talked in detail about how the Yldrbacian Chronicles came about. Now, right now, I've got 2 of the books out. When I get the 3rd one completed, when I get Return to Paradise completed, then I'll be in a position to talk to a gentleman. I've actually, at this point, had 2 people from the film industry that have contacted me regarding the possibility of turning the Yldrbacian Chronicles into a movie. Now, to say the least, am I flattered by it? Certainly. Am I going to turn over production rights, just sell the rights to them outright? Not a prayer. Because way too often I've seen people take the story and completely derail it. Okay, which is why I will have, even when that happens, you can bet your bottom dollar that I will maintain a balance point. Okay, where I've got input into it. But the same goes for you. If you're not content with where your life is, imagine what it would be like if you had the tools to make it happen. And intriguingly enough, you've got those tools. You just don't know it yet. But this is why I say that working together, we can make this happen. Okay. I've already gone through the route of dealing with professionals that told me, oh, you're in a mess. You have to go bankrupt. Okay. I did that twice. And in both cases, when I look back on it, bankruptcy turned out to benefit only two groups of people. Only one group of people, actually. Okay, it didn't do me any good. It didn't do a thing for my credit rating. The people that I legitimately owed money to did not get any benefit. The only person that got benefit, or the only people that got it, was the bankruptcy trustee themselves, who got paid for his work, and by extrapolation, the company he worked for. Okay, this said, I found some pretty creative ways to solve the problem, to the point where after two solid bankruptcies, I am now in a position where just the day before Father's Day, which would make it June 20th. Right. So we're talking 4 days ago. I just managed to get myself to a point where I've actually got a brand new car. Okay. Now the trick is to imagine what's going on with the Yldrbac Chronicles. Okay. I know that's where I'm going to make my money. I was told this back in grade 10. If you've got a goal, doesn't matter how old you are. Okay. If you've got a dream that you had when you were a kid, gee, I'd like to do this. I'd like to do this one day. Unless you put a time limit and said, for instance, I desire to be a millionaire by the time I'm 20. If you're now 21, you didn't make it. You'll never be a millionaire by the time you're 21 and by the time you're 20. This does not mean you cannot become a millionaire. Nor does it mean you should give up on your efforts. Okay. The reality behind it is, I like the concept I came up with quite some time ago. Okay. And that concept was, when your mind can conceive it and your heart can believe it, then you can achieve it. And the reality is, if you don't get that heart drive, that real imperative here in your heart, the odds are you're going to run into major snags getting it accomplished. Okay, I used to dream, like when I was a kid, I'd take a look at the big rigs running around the countryside, and I'd go, I'd love that kind of a job. Then reality set in. Okay, that was before I even hit 10. At 12 years old, I destroyed my knee, and that took the whole idea of running a standard vehicle of that magnitude and threw it out the window. Okay, so that kind of put a hiccup in it. And then I realized, driving around the countryside where I don't have to deal with people, because even then I was very reclusive. So I'd look at it and go, it'd be a real neat idea, except, they didn't have GPSs then, which was fine, because I get lost anyway. And I'm going, let me see. That is fantastic, Lawrence. See, now, Lawrence has just entered. I'm working on my second million. I gave up on the first. Yeah, that's like that old song. The song that goes, "Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble." But I modified that. I never did develop a way of putting a lid on my mouth. So I just go, "Oh Lord, it's hard to be humble, but it's too much work, so I don't bother even making the effort anymore." Now, don't get me wrong. I am not very well versed in a lot of things, and I certainly do not feel I'm the best of anything. Okay, but I do like this whole idea. It's kind of like I used to be a professional procrastinator. Now it doesn't take any effort at all. It's a natural ability at this point. Of course, I was offered the opportunity to go to a procrastinators meeting, but they kept postponing it, and I just gave up waiting for them. But if you've got a dream, as long as you didn't put a date or an age on it that's already passed by, then there's no reason to give up on it, in my opinion. Okay, I found, when it came to the writing, it came about really nicely. Now, here's the neat little thing. When it comes to imagination, this little book, called Mr. Dreamcatcher, I wrote this when my eldest was 2 years old. I got fed up reading the same stories. I was reading the normal Dr. Seuss and that sort of Dr. Seuss, Berenstain Bears. Okay. And I got fed up with them. So I rattled this story off, this Mr. Dreamcatcher. I rattled it off the top of my head one day when he was about 2 years old. And after I rattled that off, from the time he was 2 until the time that he was about a month before turning 8, he would not go to sleep without hearing that story. Okay. He wouldn't go to sleep at all without hearing that story. I eventually put it on a single sheet of paper, essentially in crib form, in crib note form, and gave it to my wife at the time, so that if I wasn't available, she could read the story to him. Well, imagination kicked in, and I took this and I wrote it. I did the illustrations using Paint on the computer. Okay, turned around. Wonder if that's mine. If it is, I'll have to answer it. If FedEx just showed up at my apartment, so if they end up ringing my doorbell, then I'm going to have to take a break and go and get it. But I ended up doing the storyline itself and putting it on paper, illustrated it, and net result, my imagination, a story that came right off the top of my head. I took to I ended up, we're reading it off enough. And here's the real kicker to it. Okay. I got this written. I took this story to First Nations. Okay, to the so-called First Nations. And I kid you not, they told me it was the best story about a Dreamcatcher they'd ever read. But because I am not First Nations, I don't know. But because I did not know at that point one way or the other, I never did get this in the print as far as as far as the First Nation, the so-called First Nations goes. Okay, so what I ended up doing was I sat on it. I did, obviously, considering it is, in print. It's very small, but let me show you something. The first time I did it in this size. Okay. And again, as you can see, it's written and illustrated by me. Okay. I've got these in print in my possession. Now, the other thing that the imagination has done is I now have the second copy of this. Okay, the second installment, if you will. I seem to do that a lot. But Mr. Dreamcatcher Returns is in the printer right now. And of course, the only place to get it is through me, because much as I've set it up to go to print with Author House, it's already bought and paid for to put the little one in, the original in. I haven't done anything with it yet. Primarily because I was trying to get the other ones up and running. So good morning, Lazarus. That came out well. Lazarus. How are we doing? I'm glad you joined us. So, this is Mr. Dreamcatcher. That was strictly out of my imagination. Had no predecessor to it at all. And literally, it was done on a whim. It was just my imagination coming to print. Mr. Dreamcatcher Returns is coming out next week. And again, if you look at the bottom of the videos, even with my live feeds, I make sure I've got a complete list of the videos available. A complete list of the books that I've got in print. At present, I've got 6 in print. Okay, I've got the birth of the wolf pack, the end of an epoch, which are the 2 from the Yldrbac Chronicles. Then I've got Mr. Dreamcatcher out. I've got the Races of the Worlds, and I've got about 10 or 15 pictures left to do regarding the Races of the Worlds for the first volume. Then I'll get them all added in and do a second printing with the pictures. Okay. Now, that said, I've also got 2 books out: Believe in Yourself and Follow Your Dreams, and Believe in Your Business and Follow Your Dreams. So with this in mind, this again is where my forte as far as writing goes came in. All of these are in print. So by the end of next week, I'll actually have 7 books in print. Okay, and I'll start working. I'm still working on 31 more, which isn't bad considering when I first counted it, I had 33 books I was writing, but the end of an epic is out in print now, And the Return of Mr. Dreamcatcher, Mr. Dreamcatcher Returns is about to come out in print. Okay, so now we have to go through the rest of it. Okay, but when you get an idea in your head, even if you've put a project on hold or you've put a goal on hold because life got in the way, this is the time to change it. This is the time to take a look at the way your life is going and go, am I content with where my life is standing? I've seen people walk away from entire life and life paths. I remember one marriage in particular. The reason they left and they walked out and took the kids with them, right? They did take care of their ex for the longest time. Okay, until the ex actually found themselves another partner. But the individual said, I never imagined my life being like this. So what they ended up doing was they walked out on a marriage. They just pulled the plug on it with no warning. There was no infidelity. There was no financial struggle with it. They just simply walked out because they weren't content. Now, I recommend against this kind of maneuver. If you're not happy, absolutely find what's not making you happy. Don't worry about where your life is heading. That is the biggest miscalculation most people are taught. You don't have to know where your life is heading. Okay. The neat little part about it, like when I take a look at the Mr. Dreamcatcher, okay, I actually have an entire line worked out in the way of little merchandise items. Okay. Because it was very easy once I designed it. And when I came up with the pictures with the different characters in it, let me show you here. Since I'm looking at the imagination, okay. Obviously, that's a Dreamcatcher. At least I hope that it's obvious. I am not the best artist by any functional stretch, but when we take a look at it, this here is Mr. Dreamcatcher himself. Okay, and as you can see, it was patterned directly after the cover. Right. Then you've got these little guys, like this chap here. Okay. Well, I just take a look at that, make sure I did that right. Of course, you'll have to pardon me. Obviously, this is live, which means the hiccups go right with it. Okay. Now, here's the neat thing. This chap here. Okay, this is the bad dream, and his name is Graph. Now, I came up with the idea of what he was to start with. No, come to think of it, I didn't. I was talking to, because I designed the picture of the story for my eldest son. Okay, he designed who this chap was. This is Graph. He even named Graph. Okay, I wrote the story. He's the one that decided what they were. Now understand, when we finally got this to print, he was only 3, maybe 4 years old. Okay, when he started naming these people. And then we have this little chap, and I'm sure some of you will recognize. As a matter of fact, I'll show you just how that works. This here, he wanted the character's name to be Tree. So I asked him what he looked like. And here we have it. Okay. Now, the neat part about it, okay, is we have Tree, and Tree is the nice guy. Okay. The story itself, guess what? I'm not going to read it to you, not right now, that's for certain. But here's the other thing I wanted to show you. This one here. Now, this was purely a coincidence. Raven, welcome aboard. See what happens. I get caught up talking. I miss people coming into the room. But I'm going to show you something here. Now, this is Tree in Mr. Dreamcatcher. And then we go over to the fantasy work science fiction, science fantasy I write. And here we have another one. Now, of course, in this case, it's got 4 arms instead of the 2. But like I said, all things are connected. Okay. Now, I forget what his name is. I wonder if I can find it real easy. I know who it is. I just have to look. But as you can see, with characters like that, they can be turned into additions to the book, to the storyline, when I find somebody that can produce them. Once it goes to print, once I get it onto the net, and since it's already bought and paid for with the Author House, that's the route I'll go as far as getting that one out. Now, I do have the other books that I haven't entirely figured out whether I'm going to go with Author House or find somebody else. Is these books here. These 2 self-help. Believe in yourself and follow your dreams. These are the same tools. As a matter of fact, believe in yourself is actually the backbone of how I operate. Okay, it is how I turn things around altogether. But I'm still looking into possibilities of other people that can handle the publication and what have you. I've been told Amazon. I have not looked into it yet. And frankly, the technological world confuses the daylights out of me a lot of the time. But get an idea in your head. You may already have one. Somebody was talking to me one day about, somebody talked to me. I was talking to an individual that happens to be blind. They came up with a brilliant idea. And like I said, make it happen. Okay, years ago, I was talking to a gentleman. He was in the... Good morning, Charlene. How you doing? I was doing psychic readings for a grade 12 class. And about 5 years, and what had happened is he came to me with an idea. He goes, why isn't there an ejection seat for helicopters? And I looked at him and I said, well, let's look at that for a minute. And he says, he goes, I love safety, I love helicopters, but I want to combine the 2. I says, great. So let's see how you do that. Where are you planning on injecting them to? And the kid was in grade 12. Okay. And he looks at me and he goes, well, you fire an injection seat, an injection goes straight up. I says, think about that for a moment. Okay. I said, you take a look at it. I says, you punch the guy out through the top. He goes, well, that's where the injection seats go. I said, what's on top of the helicopter? And the guy's face turns absolutely white. And he goes, oh my gosh, I never thought about it. About that side. I says, well, I will tell you this. That pilot will not die from the impact. We had a decent laugh over it. The reason I'm telling you this story is because about 5 years after he graduated, the helicopter industry came out with 2 sets of injection seats, of emergency injection seats for the helicopters. Okay. One goes out sideways. Okay. I.e., it locks down from what I understand, it drops the bar down on either side of the helicopter, of the pilot's helmet, and then launches them sideways. Okay. And fires them out. The reason for the bars, obviously, is to avoid whiplash. The second set, they blow the helicopter tops, the helicopter props, a split second before the ejection seat goes up. Again, like I said, this guy came to me with an idea. We talked about it for a couple of minutes. And 5 years later, we've got ejection seats for helicopters. Now, I have no idea what the kid's name was to start with. So looking up who invented them wouldn't tell me a thing. And what I'm getting at, though, another lady I knew that I dealt with came to me. She had a dream. When she was a kid, she dreamed of being a doctor. Now, she was 52 when she talked to me about it in the first place. And she goes, I can't be a doctor. I said, wait a minute. I said, you're still breathing? And she goes, yeah. I said, so what's stopping you? I said, granted, you go after becoming a doctor. You're not going to have long before, you're not going to be a full doctor for very many years before you hit that 65-year magical, retirement age. But I said, you think about it. Go after that goal. The amount of good you'll do for you is phenomenal. If you've got a goal, as long as you're still breathing, go after the thing if it's at all possible. Okay. In her case, I worked with her for 8 years. She walked out at 60 years old as an MD. And you got to understand, in her later years there, she's going through the same medical training that the kids that are 18, 20 years old are going after their doctorate with. And the motivational impact that she had on those kids was absolutely phenomenal. When I graduated, I told my graduating class that I was going to be publishing books. That was directly because of my grade 10 teacher. Okay. She's the one that put me on track to it. And it was just, from my standpoint, if travel opens up a little fast enough, my 40-year grad reunion is coming. And I fully intend on taking up a couple of the books with me to show people that, yeah, absolutely. When I was graduating, I'm 18 years old at the time. I was getting to graduate, and I'm going, I'm going to write books. Now, it took me until now to get them out. Okay. But if when you take a look at this, I actually tracked down my grade 10 English teacher. I think she's passed away at this point. But I got her permission beforehand. Okay. And I literally was able to write in, to put in the book to my very special grade 10 English teacher, Mrs. Heather Van Yldrbac. Now, she gave me permission to use her actual name. Okay. Which is the only reason I put the full name in there. Okay. When you've got a goal, when you've got a dream, your imagination is the way to make it happen. Doesn't matter what it is. I've got a client that was talking to me just the other day. They've been in the medical facility, in medical field for literally decades. And it's the medical field, but she's been working in an office literally for decades. She's got a dream to become an archaeologist. She's got a dream to become involved in the tourist industry. And like I told her, and she says, but I think I'm too old. I said, that would be the first problem. If you're not dead, you're not too old. Okay, in most cases. Yes, if you desire to get something done by the time you hit a certain age. Okay, then absolutely. If you're already over that age, you're too old to hit that goal. But if you don't have an age bracket on it, call it your bucket list, if you will. There is nothing stopping you from getting there. Okay. So when I got into writing, okay, I write in 5 different genres: children's, science fiction, science fantasy, self-help, reference, and poetry. And yes, I am in the middle of putting some poems together to put an anthology out. Okay. And again, it'll go into, when I get it into print, it'll go into print in my book, from me directly first. Okay. I'm still learning the marketing technique. Okay. And that is quite seriously my biggest downfall. Okay. My biggest shortfall where it comes to the writing side of it. But here's the neat little part. If you really want to get detail on how I went about the Yldrbacian Chronicles, that's a whole different, and that's listen to the journey from yesterday. Okay. This one here, on the other hand, okay, believe in yourself. What I did with this was I figured out what the biggest barriers were that I was having trouble with. This is simply the backbone of how I got out of the world I was in. Okay. Aside from hitching a ride on a UFO. Okay, so what I did was I wrote each chapter in point form. Okay. Greeting, Wallet Moth. How are you doing? Glad you can make it. When I wrote Believe in Yourself and Follow Your Dreams, I figured out the steps that I required. What was it that was helping get me mobilized? And I put it down in each chapter so they're standalone. The book, well, if you really look at it, this particular book, now here's the difference in size, okay? This book is 22 pages, okay? And I kept the chapters short, kept them standalone, and the reason for it was if you really require reading them again, okay, if you really require a refresher, read the chapter again. It's only 2 or 3 pages each. Okay, but what I did was here's the tool, here's what it'll do for you, and here is a major reason why you won't desire to do it. Because the way I figured it, if I could identify the things that were stopping people from succeeding, then I could turn around and we could do, if I could give you the reason why you're going to try and talk yourself out of it as a primary issue, and there's a lot of different reasons for doing it. Okay, but you got to remember, you're the only one that can be successful for you. So I wrote it standalone. Okay, now that book is 22 pages long. The children's book is, where the heck are we? It is a whopping 11. Okay, it wasn't until I got into the reference manual, this one. Needless to say, these are in print, but these are all tied to the imagination. Now, the funny part about this one is it's a question whether reality got in the way first. But this one is 64 pages. When I add the pictures, it won't be growing in size. It might grow a page or two because I am adding extras. I am adding extra information. Okay, but that one is 44. And then we do this massive jump to 392. Okay, that's not counting the appendices. Okay, now it will be fascinating to find out if the final one, because the end of an epoch also ended up being 392 pages when it was written. And that was after all editing. It just kind of worked out that way. It will be really fascinating to find out if, when I get finished the Return to Paradise, if it too comes out at 392 pages. Okay, and even when I add the extra internal pictures, even when I get those done, okay, that won't be adding because I set the novel up in such a way. Malu, welcome aboard. I set that book up as well, where pictures can be added without altering the page count. Okay, I left the pages deliberately blank. I am in the process right now. Now, in The Birth of the Wolf Pack, it has 31 chapters, I think. Probably easier to look it up this way. And so we take a look. Oh, when you know it. Excuse me, but that was not what I had in mind. Okay, I was having trouble getting the file to actually come up properly. But due to that, let us see here, the compendium. This is where the monitor up here is where I've got my information on the whole writing of the Yldrbac Chronicles. Now, if I take a look at that and go to that chapter there, and Birth of the Wolf Pack, go down to book 10, has 31 chapters. Right now, I have 4 pictures completed for inside. Sorry, 6 pictures completed inside. Okay, so I am working on those pictures as well. And again, this is simply taking what's up here in the imagination, putting it on paper. Okay, if you've got any thought, any concept that you'd like, I hear talk to people, they go, I'm a real good inventor, but I don't know where to start. Well, where you start, when we're talking about inventing, most people think inventing boils down to creating something for other people. I'm here to tell you that's only one aspect of it. When you're modifying your life from where it currently is, okay, to where you desire it to be, that boils down to inventing or creating, more accurately, co-creating the future you desire. Now, this neat little thing here, where is it? There. Okay, where it comes to manifesting the money you're looking for. This is a phenomenal tool for me. Okay, and I tell people this on the journal every time I talk about it. We have legally acquired a minimum of $3,900 by June 30th, 2022, at 1 minute to midnight at 23:59. Which, if you've ever been in the military, that's all that means is 1 minute to midnight. Okay, every time I put that up, for me it was 3,800. Now understand, when you're talking about creating a wealthier life, and I'm referring to financially wealthier, that tool, I started off with simply what I required to make ends meet. Okay, which for me was only $2,500. Okay, and by last year, in May, when I hit that 38, I only required the 2,500 to run. However, by using that method, what has happened is it has helped me stay focused on the financial world and imagine a life. I used to imagine a life when I was debt free, when I didn't have to worry. That entire imagination was a great idea, except one little glitch. If you don't put any effort in, you don't get it. So I imagined living a life where I didn't have to worry about finances. Okay, I spent up until literally last month, well, until March of this year, I spent one paycheck away from living on the street. The end of every month for the first part of my life, I spent worrying, am I going to have rent for the end of the month so I don't have to move? Okay, here I am now. Not only do I have 3 months living expenses sitting in the bank, okay, I've got access to more. I don't worry about, do I have enough money at the end of the month to pay my rent? Okay, that world of my imagination came to pass. Okay, I used to dream and imagine a world where I had a car I didn't have to worry about breaking down. Okay, up until literally 4 days ago, I was driving a vehicle that there was a lot that didn't work on it. A lot. Of course, it was a 2003. Okay, but the day before, on the 20th of June, because of my imagination and staying focused on that which I desired in the material world and doing the work. Okay, yes, I went to a lot of people for guidance on how to make it happen. But by doing the work, I ended up sitting in very good shape, where I actually managed to get myself a brand spanking new 2022 RVR. It's a sort of a half SUV. Okay. But I managed to get the thing, even with a credit rating as low as mine is, which, quite frankly, I'm not proud. I'm proud of it from the standpoint of it used to be 512. When I went in to talk to them about the car, it was only 645. And I was thinking, that's great. I'm going to gamble because my car is starting to have serious trouble. I literally went in there thinking they're going to turn me down, but imagining that I would get it. Okay. Well, I got the loan. So here I am, 59 years old. I've got backups for my home, and this was based on taking my imagination. I'd really like my life to look like this. I wonder if it's possible. Well, I'm telling you, it's possible. One of the 31 books I'm writing is a book on literally how you can attain success in 4 simple steps. Okay, I shouldn't call them simple. Listing them off is easy, but the following through with them is going to be the challenge. They will be when I get that one done. Okay, that one I've already got the cover work designed for it. I've already got the title design for it, and so I'm sitting on the whole 9 yards. I'm in the middle of writing it. Okay, but then I'm writing. I'm writing 31 at the same time. I'm looking at, let's see, Mr. Dreamcatcher Returns, Return to Paradise, Races of the Worlds. Volume 1 is getting a reprint, hopefully by the end of the year. That's a matter of getting the rest of the pictures done. Hopefully, I'm aiming for Races of the Worlds Volume 2 to come out as well, and a book of an anthology of poetry to come out. These are all things I'm looking at and I'm working towards, not just watching. People keep telling me, chase your dreams. I tell you, I don't run very fast, so that's just not going to work well. So I look at it from a slightly different idea. Attain your dreams, co-create them. Do not let your imagination and your fear that you're taught so much about, do not let that fear stop you. Now, that's real easy for me to say. Okay. And rest assured, I have spent the majority of my life hiding from the world. Okay, just not dealing with them. And there are certain topics I find out. There are certain topics that media don't like. There are concepts that I work with that are absolutely not popular. So the ones I vocally talk about in places like this, I've learned if I don't desire to get shut down completely, I'll stick to the things that are workable for everybody. Okay. The thing that I find is people talk about, I know people that are leaving Canada because they don't like the country. Well, I will tell you, that's a great reason to leave. Now, I'm up in Canada, and it's not that I love the country. It's that I like where I'm living, and I'm just too lazy to move. Okay. I prefer my freedom, and for what other people think, I speak English, so the odds of my going someplace else, I get lost too easy. At 59 years old, why would I change? Why would I move? Yes, I can give all sorts of reasons why that's possible. But when you take a look at your imagination, take a look at the goals you've had. Have you put something on hold that you're not content with? Okay. Doesn't matter what the project. If you're not content with it, there is a way to change it. Okay. And the imagination is the key. Now, of course, I never even dreamed that I would ever have a stroke. Okay. That wasn't, it was a reality as far as my family history goes. But I learned how to bottle things really, really well. Once I had the stroke, and came up with this problem. I couldn't walk and I couldn't talk, and my whole left side was shut down. Okay. It was really funny. You know, looking back on it was funny. Royal pain in the neck. Heart attacks are easy. They're painful, but they're easy to recover from. I had my stroke on December 28th of 2018. And I couldn't use my left arm at all. Okay, if I wanted to do anything, I literally had to look at the left arm and watch it. Now, okay, I can now actually pick my coffee cup up again. But that came from imagining that it was possible. Okay, there was a story from Vietnam. There was a chap that went to war, ended up in a POW camp. Now, the important factor here is when he went to Vietnam, he could not golf. You know, he'd looked at it and gone, you know, it'd be an idea. But when he ended up he never set foot on a golf course. When he ended up in the POW camp, he spent his days imagining in his head, with every sense he could, pulling off the perfect stroke, the perfect tee off. Okay, the perfect putt. And he spent years, from what I gather, he spent 5 or 6 years in the Vietnam POW camps. And every waking moment that he had that he could spare, he spent imagining his body going through these motions. Okay. Now, by doing that, when he finally got freed, okay, he came home, and one of the first things he did was got on the golf course and played a phenomenal game of golf. He taught himself in his imagination, with no physical effort, he taught himself how to golf. Now, with that in mind, here's another one that I'm working on. When I was a kid, okay, when I was tiny, I have memories of full psychokinetic capacity, as in mind over matter. Okay. Psychocellular kinesis is your mind over body, your ability to heal, which is what I was talking about when I said to put your hands together like this, and you focus on that and feel the energy. Ultimately, it boils down to utilizing your imagination to create it. But that is the way to do it. Now, this is the one I'm working on now. Okay. Just a standard cup of water. Okay. Now, this cup itself happens to be, you can see the little bit of writing on it there, if I can get it lined up right. Barely. But what that says is Betty and Bill Peony, 1976. That's my mom and dad now passed away. But all that is standard water in it. Okay. And what I'm working on at this point, and I just started working on it the other day, so no, I can't show it to you yet. These are the same toothpicks that I use for painting my figures with. Okay. And all I'm doing is drop one in there and leave it sit. Well, that was definitely the wrong way to do that. See, if you drop it too far, what ends up happening is it sinks. That's because of water tension and surface tension on the water, for those of you that don't know. And apparently that was a mistake dropping it, because apparently it is now going to be a problem. Don't know if I'm going to be able to do anything with that. If not, we'll just replace it. So, try that one last time. Nope. That ain't going to work. Apparently I screwed that up. So we're going to do that one more time and just drag that out of there, because I don't need it in there. Pull that out. Toothpicks, by the way, if you break the surface tension, they don't float anymore, apparently. However, what I was going to say, and then got rudely interrupted by my own stupidity, or short-sightedness, call it what you will. Let's see if that works. Okay, now it's floating. And what I'm going to be doing with that is I am going to start working with that same energy and start working to get that toothpick to move on water. Yes, I know it's a long shot. Okay. Yeah, unfortunately, so it would seem. Yeah, Raven just puts in water has memory. Absolutely. And that's one of the neat little tricks. You can actually, using that energy that I talked about between your hands, Raven, if you take your hands and can build that energy wide enough, okay, you can place it on either side. You still run the same word, heal. You run it on both and right on between the hands. Get them separated enough that you can place one hand on either side of a glass of water. You can draw the impurities out of the water. Okay, now this is something that takes some time. So the reality is it may not happen the first time. I did it to somebody that was to a heavy drinker. Okay, I was asked to come out east to help this one client, or more to the point, help her son. Had a phenomenal potential. I forget what his last name is at this point. Well, mind you, I forget what his first name is. Okay, but he had a phenomenal ability where it came to hockey, and he had a dream of becoming of playing for an NHL team. Now, the funny part about it was the difficult part for him was he was also he was working towards becoming an alcoholic, which needless to say would write off his career. So I was asked to come out and help. So I'm sitting there at the dining room table and I'm talking to his mom when he come home. And the first thing this kid does is he pours himself a drink of water. Or a drink of well, quite frankly, might as well have been water. But he poured himself a glass of Ryan and Coke. And I was just sitting there calmly talking to his mother, and she introduced him. And he's pouring himself a drink, and I'm just moving my hands around like I usually do. But I concentrated on something. And he looks at me, and we explained what we were talking about. And he kind of rolls his eyes and goes, yeah, he kind of looked like, yeah, sure, that's right. Okay. It works like an absolute charm, Raven. Putting thought forms into water to get things. Yeah, I do that a lot. Not necessarily talking to you while I'm off, but I can do that anyway. Because I really don't require them anymore. But I'm sitting there, at least not for a mile distance. See, I take them off, you can't even read that. But this kid, I'm standing there talking. I says, yeah, I understand you don't believe in any of this metaphysical stuff. All of this energy work is just hooey. He says, that's right. There's no proof to it. And I've got my hand up like this, and I just went like this. I'm sitting there literally. I said, I know it's just garbage, and I'm like this. And I went, right. And that's all I did was I just concentrated. I pulled my hand back and closed my hand. And then he goes and takes a drink of his Ryan Coke. I think it was Ryan Coke. But he goes to take a drink of it, and he takes a look at me, and he goes, what happened to the alcohol? I said, oh, don't worry about it. I said, energy doesn't work anyway. You can't manipulate energy. You can't manipulate anything. If it's not physically right there, it can't be done. So don't worry about it. And he takes another sip and he goes, there's no alcohol in my drink. Why not? I said, well, because, and I turned to his mom. I says, oh, my apologies. I said, I'm really not happy with the idea of taking stuff from people without asking. But in all fairness, I was asked to get a point across here. And all I did was went like this. And all of a sudden the kid starts sputtering. I looked at him, I said, what's the problem? He says, I got a full shot of rye in my mouth. I says, yeah, but don't worry about that because energy doesn't work. Energy manipulation doesn't work at all. So I turned around I turned around and I bypassed the whole thing, ignored it. Well, the long and the short of it was this. The kid quit drinking right then and there and ended up literally playing in the NHL. Okay. Now, this is just one. Now, it's not a question of a man. Some people would say, well, you just turned around and convinced him it wasn't there, which would be great if I had said anything to him about what I was doing. But all I was doing was I was just talking away. And of course, like I said, if you see me talking with my hands, that's only because I do. Not so much when I've got a drink in my hand itself. Okay. But it's that imagination that enables you to access these higher senses. Now, the neat part about it is any goal you have. For me, it's writing. Okay, I'm starting to learn how to draw. But rest assured, that's not something that I really want to call viable, as it were. I am working on it, and I will one day get myself talked to the point where I can draw where I'm content. Right now, that is not the case, which is why I've hired other artists. Okay, this particular book, okay, this one I did the artwork for myself, which gives you an idea of how good I am, or not. Okay, but I looked at it this way. Mr. Dreamcatcher is a children's story. That's all. Okay, when you're talking about the career or the life you desire to have, the more clear you are about, and that was really poor English, the clearer you are regarding the way you desire your life to work, the more easily you'll make it happen. Okay, these are just things that it really boils down to believing it's possible. And of course, get that out of my way because I don't need it there. Well, we all know what that is. Everything that was written is now on soft copy, so I'm now starting with the next stages. This is the other key to making your imagination work, is that sign. And yes, I put a lot of weight into it, which is why I happen to have 3 copies of it. Only one in wood. Okay. I've got the one in wood here. I've got one that is laminated on my fridge, and one that is laminated, or not laminated, that is just on paper on my front door. But it's that belief that I actually deserve better than what I've got. You've heard the old saying, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. What most people don't realize is there's a flip side to that. When it looks too good to be true, it's about time. Okay. And the nice part about the different tools I work with is from everything I've seen, they apply to anybody, no matter what walk of life, no matter how much money you've got in the bank, no matter who you crawl into bed with or who you worship. These tools are multi-changeable. Doesn't even matter what industry you're working in. When I start talking about different things that you do to make a business run more efficiently, it doesn't matter the size of the business. I took a client from a small community business to a global concern. Now, quite frankly, I didn't make a whole lot of money at it, but I didn't do it for the money. I keep trying to tell people money is not what drives me. Okay, don't get me wrong. I like my stuff. I like my material stuff. Okay. It was comical just the other day. Just Friday, so it'd be yesterday. I went in. Okay, I've mentioned this before. This Maria that I know, she's going into the MMA. Okay. And she's got the talent for it. She's been working on it for over a decade. Okay. To get there. Well, she is about to jump the border and actually go down there. No, you absolutely cannot. Well, this was proven. This has been proven. I'll get back to that in 10 seconds. With Maria, she is about to jump for the first time. She's going into the States on July 20th. to fight in a professional fight down there. Now, I don't know much about the fight. I do know for her it's a major event. So much as I did not have a whole lot of money to deal with, not the amount that I was planning on. Of course, you don't buy a car; it kind of screws up your pocketbook. But I took some money down to her and went to give her some money, and she looks at me and goes, "I can't take this." I said, "Actually, you really can." I said, "You've been asking for assistance on Facebook. There's no problem with taking it." And she turns around and says, "Well, that's too much." I looked at her and went, how about if we don't discuss what I can afford? Okay. So, because I said, this is more about the feel of it. I mean, it says, if you want to chalk it up to psychologically for me, I know where your career is going. Therefore, I know where your career is going. And for me, being able to help you make that first step is very important. Yeah, Malu's just stating here. I get stopped often on my electric scooter. Today, a man was laughing when he saw me. We talked. He asked how much I paid for it. When he was done, laughed. I asked him how much it'll cost to fill his tank. Right. The funny thing there is an electric scooter is the new power source. Now, for me, it really boils down to I've got a car now. Yes, it's gas. I don't drive much. But I look at people that have a vehicle that they can rely on, whether it's muscle powered, electric powered, gas powered. I don't care if it's a nuclear fusion reactor. Hey, by all means, use the thing. Just use it responsibly. Okay. And, getting back to what Wallet Moth said here, you can't take the stuff with you. And you really can't. The Egyptians used to believe, and this is what a lot of people in today's materialistically oriented world seem to think, you can take it with you. The Egyptians thought this. As a matter of fact, they thought about it so much, they used to bury live slaves with them in order to make sure they had slaves in the next world. Well, like the people themselves, needless to say, they died. But the stuff that they thought they were taking with them ended up still sitting in the tombs. So if you're one of these people that's looking at your material world going, I can take it with me. I need all this stuff to be happy. I will tell you this, the less stuff you have, the more you pay attention to the way the world is. Quite frankly, what I find is my stress level comes down a long way. Do I like my do I like my luxuries? Certainly. And I always said, Malu, I can give you a couple of reasons for saving your money, and none of them make any sense. And from my standpoint, it really boils down to this. If you've got nobody to leave it to, if it's not going to help them, then, spend your own. I had a client years ago that and because of a very long story, but her kids disowned her when she sold their property and wouldn't talk to her after that. So her reason for talking to me was literally to spend their inheritance before she died. Needless to say, I was quite happy, because I had to ask her. I says, why are you talking to me? You never ask any questions. She laid the story out. But the thing is, it's about the here and now. Because right now, right here, it's the only time you can do anything. It's the only time you can make a change. Even if you put it off for a week and a half, 2 weeks, or if you put it off for years. When you get around to doing it, it's right here, right now. Okay. Yeah, and absolutely, Malu. That's what my brother ended up doing. He's left his property, and we'll get an inheritance out of it, certainly, because he's got no kids. But there are 3 of us brothers that are still left alive. My outlook is this. Do I like my luxuries? Certainly. Do I like paying full price for them? Not a prayer. Okay. I mean, when you take a look at it, I was looking at a vehicle and I told the guy, I'd love that vehicle. But if you can't get it down, like he was looking at, it started out, we were looking at $700 or $800 a month that we were going to have to pay for it. Well, I talked to him about it and I says, if you can get it down close to the 500 mark, I'll sign the paperwork and walk away with the vehicle. Right. Well, the guy got it down to the 500 mark. Well, 518 a month. Okay. So I'm quite content with that. So I signed the paperwork. It's at home. Do not hesitate to speak what you're dreaming of in the right company. Okay. And assuming, I mean, there are ways that can be taken the wrong way. People talk about thinking about doing something is as bad as doing it. Well, if that were the case, as if you read the Yldrbac Chronicles, you'll find out if that were the case. Read any of the science fiction post-apocalyptic books. If thinking about something were that bad, okay, look at the story of Armageddon. Okay, where an asteroid is set up to hit the planet. Okay, or you look at meteor impact, you look at volcano, any of these stories that are imagination, any of these natural disaster stories, if writing them were that bad, right now, California would be its own island. Okay, but the imagination is the key to getting things moving in the right direction. Okay, when I started looking at sleep patterns, I looked at it. Everybody was telling me that, they need 8 hours of sleep, and my first thought was, well, if you're sleeping 8 hours, you're sleeping a full third of your life away. And just on a whim, I calculated what would happen if you cut your sleep to 4 hours and did not lose quality of life. Okay, if you don't lose quality of life, what happens? Okay. Well, I calculated it out, and the first thing I found was by working it out, you gain about a month and a half of living time in 1 year. Okay. Well, that triggered an accidental discovery. My sleep cut down to 4 hours. Okay. And for about 4 years, it was just simply I would sleep 4 hours a night and I'd be on the go for 20 hours. It started with the imagination. What would happen if? Okay, right now I'm working on a couple of. Ultimately, you get a month and a half extra. You get a lot more accomplished. This is how I get so many things done at the same time. That and the fact my mind's twisted. But the real catch to it, when you're looking at where your life is not to figure out where you desire your life to go. It's to figure out, are you content with your life where it currently is? Okay. Now, you take a look at this figure that I already showed you. This one's complete. Now, I'm not painting these for resale. I'm painting these because it's a hobby. Okay. Now, again, we have this one. Okay, this is a new one I just picked up. And again, I have to take a look at it. And the first thing that I have to do to turn this into something similar to this, I have to start with my imagination and go, okay, I've got the figure. Now to paint it and make it look, make it take on the new wood form. Okay. Now, I'm debating whether or not, because I've got this one in brown, obviously. Well, I've got it in brown. If you look at the top of it, it's got tan in the middle. I'm debating whether or not to take this new one. There's another type of wood. There's two other types of wood. Okay. One that I'm thinking of. One is something called yellow heart. And I don't have my cane in here right now. But it's a yellowish colored wood. Or there's ironwood, which is black. Okay. Or there's also sequoia, which it's a kind of a pinkish rainbow color. Okay, these are actual colors. Now, with that in mind, I've got a choice of what I desire to do with this as to which color I'm looking at. Okay, and I haven't quite decided yet. The pinkish color, not going to do it. I might do the pink. Actually, that's not a bad idea, really. If I put, because Sequoia is, that is an interesting, it ties right into the Yldrbac Chronicles. But because of the center point there, I can color that the color of the inside without a problem. I just have to double check on what the bark color is. But, I haven't entirely decided, that's why it's not been painted yet, as to whether I'm going to go black, the pinkish color, or yellow. Okay. Now, the yellow would be a faded version of this. Okay. But once I get that decided, then I go about putting it to work. Now, the thing about it is this. Whenever you're looking at a project, whenever you're looking at bringing your dream to reality, the first thing you do is get an imagination, get an idea in your mind, get an emotional imperative, okay, and make that happen. Okay, and it literally boils down to once you get that emotional imperative, that's when things start to move. So get an idea. What's the purpose of the project? What's the purpose of the change? What is the plan to make that change happen? Then you've got to have the persistence to stay on track with it and make it work. Because when you take a look at this, even though it's all brown, except for small parts of it, even though that is the case, this thing took 2 or 3 days to paint and dry. Okay. And I haven't quite figured out which way I'm going. But I've got, roughly speaking, I think, close to 500 figures I'm working on. But you start with the imagination. Take a look at where your life is. Are you content with it? If you're aiming at getting out of debt, that one I found a way, and there's a lot of you out there that imagine a world where you're debt free. I'm one person that actually has done that. Now I was 100% debt free, and then I did this really bizarre idea and bought a car. Oops. So much for debt free. But I know I've been debt free. I know how I did it. And is it something I can pass on to other people? Certainly. The thing is, most of the time, what I found is people run into a snag, they don't know how to get out of it, and they're completely lost. So what do? If you have trouble with a mechanic with a car and you don't know how to deal with it, take it to somebody that knows how to fix it and has successfully done so. Okay. Most of the people that run into financial troubles, you have a good one there, Malu. Don't work too hard today. But thanks for joining us. You go to a mechanic to really take a look at and to get them to deal with the car. If your financial world, if your financial vehicle, if you will, is not working right, talk to somebody who has gotten theirs worked out properly. Now, I've been bankrupt twice, but through creative manipulation, through my imagination, I found a way to actually maneuver my money whereby bankruptcy is not a viable option for most people. Yes, it happens sometimes. But I had somebody come to me the other day with multiple credit cards. And of course, the problem with bankruptcy is they will take your credit cards away. So I talked to them for a bit. They are working on getting out of debt with their own money. But because I've walked that road, I can successfully tell people, here is a creative way to handle your finances to make certain that you don't have to hit bankruptcy, or that you can build a pocketbook that you're content with. Okay, But it boils down to, it doesn't matter what tools we have or what tools you're using. Now, I know there's a couple of people out there that I've talked to that have a story. They've got a goal they'd like to acquire. They'd like to reach. I know of a couple, I forget who they are by name, that have written a book, and they've turned around and stopped the production because somebody else said it's not good enough to print. Okay. And I'm telling you, with roughly 5.6 and 7.6 billion people on the planet, people will buy. It's not a question of is it a masterpiece of work of art. It's a question of whether people know about it. This is where I do fall short. Where it comes to the marketing side, that's something I'm having to work on. Will I figure it out? Will I make it happen? The answer is definitively yes. Where it comes to finance, I've got it laid out very nicely. I even went so far as to figure out how to track and pay for word of mouth advertising, which is something that's almost unheard of. I mean, there are companies that turn around and will give you a coupon or a little bit of a discount if you buy something else from them. That's not paying for word of mouth advertising. But if you've got a goal that you put on hold because somebody else told you you're not good enough, it's not high enough quality. I watched an auction go up, and all the person did was they took a standard canvas, covered it in solid white, only white paint. They painted white over white, put a simple frame, basically using baseboard wood, around the canvas, called it whiteout, and sold the thing for over $1 million from what I gather. Okay. Now this is a piece of canvas with just white paint and a little bit of wood. Total investment, probably about, including the canvas, probably around about the idea of maybe $60. Okay. Because of the cost of the canvas. I've seen people that sell modern art where it literally, to me, now I'm no aficionado by any means, but it looks to me like people have taken a bucket of paint, walked towards the canvas, tripped, and spilled it on the canvas, turned around, called that modern art, and sold it. There was a cartoon that was done with stick men, that went national. Now, this gives you an idea of the level of quality that people are willing to buy. Now, to me, these are bottom end. Okay. And, I look at it going, there's something seriously wrong here. But if people are willing to open that door, if they are willing to turn around and make that happen, then what we're looking at I'm not quite certain what that meant there, Wallet Muff. If people are willing to buy stuff of that, I'm going to call it generic quality. I think that's a polite way to put it. Then quite honestly, from that standpoint, people will buy what you're creating. When you take a look at diamonds, people are told diamonds are a lady's best friend, right? The price makes you think they're rare. But from my understanding, they are one of the most common rocks on the planet, short of... that makes sense. Wallet Moth was just clearing up. He says, just about the artwork and the people making it. Yes, that does paint a different picture. Thing with diamonds, from what I understand, is they are second to granite, one of the most common rocks in existence. Okay, it was a matter of marketing. Okay, Apple Computers was one where they decided, you need this. They marketed. Everybody decided they needed an Apple computer. Quite frankly, I'm still working on IBM. But then I'm a bit of a dinosaur. From my standpoint, it's real simple. If I don't have to change something, I'm not changing it. And it's very much like I told my other half when we first started seeing each other. I told her, I said, there's two things you got to understand. Understanding they live in the States right now. I'm up here. And I said, before we even look at making this work, you got to understand, number one, I'm not moving. That's just the way that is. Right. And, I gave her, and the other thing I told her was I've got a son with mild CP, a 15-year-old son with mild CP. And if he never moves, that's the way it is. Okay. Well, my other half waited about 30 seconds. She goes, I can work with it. We're nearing our 2-year anniversary. Yes, we are talking about marriage. I'm real happy about the fact she gave me permission to go and actually pick up the ring I intend to put on her finger. JCL, glad you can make it. So when she does, because I told her she gets up here, I'm going to ask her to marry me. Okay, here we are, almost 2 years later. And I kid you not, we have not had so much as one fight. Okay. We haven't had so much as one fight, not one argument. We've got our own baggage, we've got our own hiccups. But we're almost 2 years, and, I know that it's possible to make this work. Some people will say, well, it's long distance, it won't work, it's not real. Well, I got news for you. Very real. Is it possible to make the relationship work? Yeah. My friend, you think about it. My first marriage, when I first saw my wife to be, when I first saw her, inside 15 seconds, I literally told her, I says, I'm going to marry her one day. Actually, inside about 30. Right. That marriage lasted, the relationship lasted 18 years. The marriage lasted 16. Based on that ratio with my new girlfriend, okay, if I base it on that time frame ratio, we should get just over 1,000 years together. Now, I can see that being a complication in corporeal form, but, what the heck, I'm willing to work with it. When you've got a goal, when you've got a project, when you've got something you're not content with, and for instance, if you're not, it doesn't all have to be done at once. Okay. If I look back, I was when I first started seeing my weight, I decided I was not content with where my weight was. Okay. I imagined my life being lighter because I was not breaking the 250. I took that imagination and I put it to use. I'm just about to reach the end of my year-end goal of breaking 200 on the downswing. Okay. With that in mind, okay, I figure I've only got about I figure 2 or 3 pounds. Well, I was down to 101 to 201. But the thing is, your weight during the week will change. I only am aiming at breaking 200 before the end of December. I wonder if I'm going to be able to pull it off. What do you think? But again, this boils down to getting a thought in your mind, taking that thought, applying a creative twist to it, and using that imagination as a springboard to make your dreams a reality. Okay. This is just the simple fact of it. Is you turn around. You absolutely do, Wallimoth. You literally pick what you're aiming for. And when it comes to your finances, okay, I keep tabs on where my money is. I keep tabs on it all the way through. But the neat little part, okay, is I mark off at the beginning of the month, this is what I had in the bank account. my target with each bank account is first, and with each of the points, is first of all the overall goal. Okay. Then I look at the bank balance and go, okay, what am I sitting on? What do I got to hit to be better off than that? Okay. So I mark down what I've got at the beginning of the month in each of my 3 bank accounts. And I compare that to what I have at the end of the month. If it's even gone up 1 penny, I'm doing good. Okay, if it just goes up 1 penny, I'm content. And that is the critical factor of it. Okay. And that is, like I said, it's just one step. My father used to put it simply. He'd go, you take care of the pennies, the dollars will take care of themselves. There's also that other neat little African proverb that goes, how do you eat an elephant? 1 bite at a time. 1 step, 1 motion. Okay. It's just a question of staying on top of it and going, yes, I am going to accomplish this. Or I'm not reaching that point. Like I was talking to one person that said, I had a stroke 5 years ago. I've just reached a point where I've got to accept the fact that I'm not going to heal anymore. And I will tell you this, that is a viable option. Okay, I had a stroke. I couldn't utilize my hand at all. Okay, but as you can see, I can actually open my hand up now relatively well. Coordination not as good as I'd like yet, but I'm working on it. But it boils down to get that mind of yours working and just simply take everybody that tells you that it can't be done. Follow the axiom that I was taught when I was a kid. Okay, there was one poem. Most people don't know the story behind the poem. Most people don't know the poem. It is simply called Can't. Okay. Now, I only ever, for the longest time, and still pretty much, remembered one line out of that poem. And that was, can't is a word that is foe to ambition. Now, if you look at the journey, if you look at my prior videos, look up a subset called language. You'll find why can't doesn't work well. But I was taught that there is virtually nothing you cannot do. Okay, when you set your mind and your heart to it. Net result, I ended up coming up with this idea that if I set my mind to something, I can pull it off. Okay, I can make it happen. Which means this idea of getting psychokinetics, the ability to move objects with my mind, with the energy around it. I will make that happen. It may be a few years. I don't know. Okay. All I do know is it's a goal that I've got because I've got memories of doing it before. It's a twisted thing. It has all sorts of neat little outlook and possible outcomes. Okay. I do know people that actually have been tested and can do it. But one of the things I found, I like the way Wayne Gretzky put it one day. He says, you may miss 95% of the shots that you take. If you don't know who Wayne Gretzky is, well, let's face it, I'm not a hockey buff. So if I know, the odds are you've heard of him. Okay. But he put it this way. You may miss 95% of the shots that you take. But you will miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if you've got a goal, if you've got something in your life, absolutely, Wallet Moth, the focus has to be on you first. Karmic law is pretty cut and dried. Be true to yourself first, meaning get that goal in your mind. Now, there are things that you may desire to do that you won't be able to get to. Okay, but here's the neat little kicker of it. I was always told, shoot for the stars. You may only get to the moon, but you're still higher up than what you were. It boils down to ask yourself this. Do you desire it more than other in your heart more than what other people desire to see you fail at it or not attain it. Okay. How many people you go? I was told, like I when I had my when I broke my arm, when I broke this right arm, and you can't really see it all that well, but I've got a scar that runs that wide. Okay. That scar, now I had to have a doctor put it back together. He bolted it, but he looked at me and he goes, "You're going to be in a cast for 4 to 6 months." I looked at him and I says, "I can't afford to be broken that long." Of course, the doctor, I mean, he was a doctor, right? And he looks at me and he goes, "Look, I'm sorry, sir, but that's what you're stuck with." I said, "No, it isn't. I don't agree with that. That's just not part of the way I'm looking at this." Well, I kid you not. I broke the arm on March 3rd of 04. Okay. By March 9th of 04, I had healed, like I went in and had it bolted. So when I went in on the 9th and got to get the bandage itself changed, I'd already healed the bone in 9 days. This is what the power of belief can do for you. But you'll notice I went to the doctor to get the help to start with. Okay. Oddly enough, you're absolutely on the right track there, Wallet Moth. You know, because what he's saying is so many people are trying to pull you down all the time because they don't want to move on and improve themselves. And that is the catch. You will get to a point when you evolve beyond their limited thinking. And I do put it that way very literally. Okay. And of course, somebody's going to go, "Well, are you saying I'm a limited thinker?" Well, yeah, I am. You know, that's just the reality behind it. I don't, I used to get, like so many people, I got told as a kid, "You have to apologize." So I figured out a way around it. Okay, I did apologize when I was forced to. But if I didn't feel that an apology was supposed to be forthcoming or was deserved, I would turn around, look at the person, and go, "Please accept my most insincere apology to date." And they were happy with it. Right. Because it literally, I just looked them dead in the eye and very calmly, just, "Please accept my most insincere apology to date." And I'd be, patted on the shoulder sort of thing, and, "Good, don't you feel better?" And I'd be like, "Yeah," and carry on. And they'd be happy. The interesting part of that is there was a glitch in that apology. Okay. And it's a question whether or not, and it's just a curiosity thing on my part, if anybody noticed what the glitch in that apology was. There was a young lass I knew one day that was forced into the same situation of apologizing for something that she did not feel deserved an apology. It was an argument with her brother, and she called her brother stupid. Well, their mom turned around and says, you have to apologize to your brother." So she turned around. Right. That'd be the one, Raven. It's that little word that most of them missed. Very insincere. In other words, I'll say I'm sorry, like I care. Well, this young lass, she turned around, looked her brother dead in the eye, and goes, "I'm sorry you're so stupid," and walks off. But by doing it the way I did it, right, that all they heard, most of them missed the word "in" or the prefix "in." Net result, I got away with murder. Not quite. Got away with being murdered, but that's another story. The trick is this. If you're not content with the way your life is, imagine a better life and then start removing the things that are blocking it. If you imagine, like, for instance, if you take a look at the previous videos, my office used to be an absolute jam-packed mess. Okay. You'll notice a lot of that stuff is gone now. It didn't get just moved to a different part of the house, and you'll have to take my word for that one. it got moved to where I desired to. It either was gotten rid of, it was either disposed of, or it was moved where it belonged. Okay, I'll tell you, the other day I nearly let my imagination really get ahead of me, and I just about had to stop doing videos. Primarily because I just about had myself killed with another stroke. Let my stress go way too high. Blood pressure jumped. I didn't end up in the hospital, but my blood pressure jumped to 192 over 93. My pulse was at 102. And I have no idea what my temperature was like, but it was absolutely skyrocketed. Now, I didn't end up in the hospital, but what triggered it was, if you look over here, if you look right there, that stack of files, and way up on top here, those ones, that's the hard copy of all 10 of the books that are remaining to write of the Yldrbac Chronicles. But I had a glitch with my computer and thought I had wiped out 40 years of writing. Okay, almost 40 years. And that caused my stress to go right through the roof. Thankfully, I've got the hard copies. I've got the active files on my desktop. I've got a backup set on a zip drive in a safety deposit box. And I also shipped another backup copy to my other half on an offsite computer. Net result, I don't have the stress. If I blow another computer up, it may take me a while to type all the stuff back in, but I've got the files. Okay, I've got all the data. I mean, the process of getting the rest of the stuff into print, put out. But where is it? This one? Yeah. This one here. Okay, that is a song that is actually in the Yldrbac Chronicles, but it's incomplete. So I printed it out so I could start working on it and get it written properly before putting it into print. Because there are different poems, different songs, and what have you that are written into the storyline. And again, this is why I say it's all based on imagination. You start with the imagination and you work forward. Okay. So, I mean, from my standpoint, it really boils down to, what do you do with it? I take a look at it and go, I'm not content with the way my world is right now. Now, the neat part about it is I've turned around, as if you've watched my videos at all, especially if you go back a little ways. Okay. My hair used to be down past my elbows. Okay. I've now cut my hair back, as you can tell, because this is no wig. I can pull on it. It doesn't do me any good. Wig, I don't wear a wig. I don't wear a toupee. I don't see the point to it. Okay, it's kind of like changing my life. So many people or changing my name. People have said, well, why don't you go by a different name, a pseudonym when you're writing or when you're doing psychic work? I'm like, look, I'm about as honest as I can get. Ask me a question, I'll give you a direct answer. If I've got one, I'll give you a direct answer. If I don't, I'll tell you I don't have the answer. But I'll point you in what I believe the direction to go to find it. Okay. Every now and again, things happen. It's funny. You can take a look at all sorts of people, and, people tell you only a small, it's a very tiny group that becomes successful through writing. It is. It's a very small group. But I only have to take one position there. It's like when you're going to apply for a new job. If you desire a new job, okay, yeah, there may be hundreds of people applying, but you only need to actually have one person and them spot you. There's an old saying that we grew up with up here in Canada when I was a kid. My dad used to tell me, if you're out in the woods, you don't have to be able to outrun a grizzly bear. You just don't. Okay. You just have to be able to outrun the guy that's with you. Okay. Yes, that's a little bit twisted, but it worked. Okay, same thing applies in Africa. You don't have to outrun lions. You don't have to outrun tigers. You just have to outrun the person with you. Okay, if you desire your life to change, imagine what your life would be like. Okay, if you got rid of that one thing in your life that you're not content with. For me, that one thing boils down to this. Okay, now you can't see it very well, but there's stuff over on my desk right now. I'm not content with it being there. So I start with the idea of what's that going to look like if that stuff isn't there. Okay, what's it going to look like with those files over here that I'm pointing at there? What's it going to look like when those are all finished and packed away? Okay, now I'll be putting those into a filing drawer today. Okay, so that they're out of the way, they're not on my desk. I don't have to have them readily available. But by putting them in a box, in that filing cabinet behind me in the right place, that energy will clear up. And it applies to your world as well. But the trick is, do not look at it from where do you desire, what do you desire your life to look like? Take a look at your world the way it is. And ask yourself one small little question. Are you content with your life exactly as it is? If not, it's time to start making changes. If you're not content with where your life is currently standing, it's up to you to make those changes. Talk to anybody you desire, but you're the only one in existence that can actually make it happen. Okay, you've got to be the one to do it. Now, a couple of things that I'm like today. I've got stuff sitting in my hallway that I've got to get out of my hallway. Okay, and it really boils down to this. All I have to do is load them into my car and drive them out to the storage unit or drive them to Value Village, which boils down to a secondhand shop, and drop them off so I don't have to deal with them. Then they won't be in my hallway. Well, that depends on how long you were gone there, Wallet Moth. Wallet Moth comes back and he goes, oh no, what did I miss? That is an excellent question. I have no idea. Okay. But the reality of it is, not a whole lot. In all fairness, it really wasn't a whole lot. It boils down to when you desire your life to change, you do not have to know what it will look like. Because the reality is, you think of it this way. Everything that I say, everything you think is change. I'm betting dollars to donuts you're not writhing in pain right now. But if I desire things to change, and in simplest terms, I've got my coffee cup here. I don't like it in that hand. I desire it in this hand. So all I have to do is change, put it in that hand. It's now in a different place. If I'm not content with it over there, I can always move it back. And you'll notice I'm not in any more pain than I was before. Okay. But it was the longest time for me what I didn't like that's easy now. There was a time not too terribly long ago where I literally would have to, I'd get my hand open about that far, and I'd literally have to push the cup into it and force the hand to close so I could get onto it, so I could hold my coffee cup. Then in order to drink it, I'd still have to hold it this way to make it work. But here's the thing. I imagined a world where my hand was back working properly. I will get back to writing comfortably left-handed. This is another one of those goals that I've got. Before my stroke, I used to be able to write better with my left hand, albeit mirror image, than I did with my right. But when I had the stroke, I lost all of that. But in reality, all I did was lose the data tree to get there. Okay. But I am rebuilding it. And will I get back to it? Absolutely. It boils down to a very simple philosophy. whether you believe you can do it or you believe you cannot. In either event, you're likely to prove yourself right. Now, there are limits. Okay, technically, I could go up and parachute. Yeah, I could actually, go up there and go parachute. I just look at it going this. Why would I bother going and parachuting? Right? I just, nobody's ever given me a logical reason to climb out of a perfectly good aircraft and jump. But like I've told people, if we're up in the airplane and we've got to jump out of it, strap a parachute on me, push me out the door. I'd appreciate it if you pull the ripcord while you're at it. Okay, just to make sure that I can actually do something with it. And I'll take my chances. But if the plane's not going down, I'm patient. Okay. For me, it really boils down to an issue of get a goal in your mind. Start making adjustments so you can eliminate the things you're not content with. I wasn't happy with my weight. I looked into medical things. I even tried that neat little idea of let's get a medical supplement and see if that will help drop the weight. Because the new doctors are saying exercise and cutting back on what you're eating won't work to lose weight. I'm thinking I don't know. I cut back on what I was eating. I got a little more exercise. And when I'm talking a little more, right, when I'm talking about a little more exercise, I'm talking about I exercise about 5 minutes a day. And eventually I'll work up to probably 10. But by doing that, by cutting down my food intake, by increasing that little itty bitty bit of energy of exercise, I've dropped 45 pounds. Now, yes, it's taken me almost a year. Okay, I don't care. The thing is, it's working. I tried one of these medications, and it would have worked like a charm. Absolutely would have worked like a charm. Caused a heart attack in less than a week. From my standpoint, it really boiled down to I didn't have to watch what I was eating. I didn't have to worry about calorie counting or anything. I just looked at it and went, if you don't put food in your mouth, or you put more effective food in your mouth, my blood pressure used to be really high. I got into eating oatmeal with quinoa and flax and a few other things, 9 grains in all, and blueberries every 2 or 3 days. My blood pressure in 10 days dropped 40 points. In all fairness, when I did that, I was actually eating that every day. Absolutely. And the story of the tortoise and the hare there, Wallet Moth, actually says it all. If you stay persistent at your own pace, you will get there. You may not be first in line. Okay. And Lord knows the way people are driving now, you're not likely to be first in line. I used to drive with lead foot. And then it dawned on me, people are passing me anyway, no matter what speed I was doing. And then I thought, and I'm going I'm heading to a building or a city. Either way, it'll be there when I get there. And if it's not there when I get there, then I didn't want to be there early anyway. But you set the pace for you. Get yourself to the point where you eliminate the things in your life that you're not content with. But if you're not content with your job, do not quit until you've got a replacement. Once you've got a replacement income, then you can do what you will. Because I don't know about you, you can do what you will anyway. But I don't know about you. I don't like the idea of living on the street. Okay, that's, if you will, a pet peeve of mine. This is why I say plan what you're aiming for. As the saying goes, people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. But it takes an imagination to open that doorway, even to the higher senses, to the ability to see what people are up to. I had an event just this morning. Ended up with a call from my other half. She'd lost a little magnet that was about that big in diameter. Just a little disc.
Now, let's be clear, she's blind. So when she dropped it, she couldn't find it. She called me to see if I could find it, if I knew where it was. Now, I understand, we're in two different cities. Quite frankly, we're in two different countries. So I just went to take a look at this specific location. Well, she went there and found the thing. So can I find things? Yeah, but here's the kicker. See this neat little coffee cup? Just a little thing. I keep losing track of where I put this. Or my glasses. And Lord knows how I managed to do that, but what the heck. In any event, just keep in mind, and I should have said this a long time ago, but I'm going to wrap it up with this. There's a little button in the bottom of the video there. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, that'll do it for you. But I do look forward to seeing you again next week. I haven't figured out what I'm talking about next week, but I will be back. Okay, until then, take care of yourself, and I will be back on tomorrow with the journey. But until then, take care of yourselves and and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.